AI agents examples you can use today. I spent over $47,000 in 3 months trying every tool I could get my hands on. And the truth is, most of them are still glorified chatbots that require me to do all of the work. But 6 of them are running entire departments in my business. As I sit here, they're working with my team and learning based on every decision that they make. I'm going to teach you exactly which ones work and how they're wired together. My name is Scott Bartnick. I'm a 2 times Inc. 5000 CEO, and I teach business leaders how to implement systems in their business. All right, let's jump right in. So before you look at these examples, we want to understand where you actually need to implement agents and workflows into your business. Now, the key to actually have any AI tool make a difference is it needs to solve an actual constraint in your business. What I mean by that is something that's actually slowing your business down. It's costing you money. You're losing revenue. And when we look at this, the easiest way to understand it is what is the needy piece of your business? What's taking the most attention? Where do you find gaps? What do you not like doing? And if you don't know exactly where to start, think about doing a time study with your own time or have your team do a time study, determine where the majority of their time is going, and then look at implementing automation and AI into that. Now, before I implement any tools, I ask myself a few questions. One, by me solving this problem, will I increase revenue? Will I increase lifetime value? Will I reduce risk in the business, or will I recapture time? If the answer is no to all of those, then you don't have a true constraint and you need to go back. Once I have a yes to one of those criteria, I just ask myself, is the input worth the output? And what I mean by that is the expense or time that I need to spend fixing the problem going to bring in more value to the business. So for example, if I was going to improve the quality of my product, but I had to spend $1 million to do it, but I was only going to recapture $250,000 in revenue, it's probably not worth doing. And so you have to understand the pros and balances. Before we pull up those examples, I'm going to go into the different types of automations in AI that we get to use. So to understand this, we just need to understand a basic system. And basically what that is we have an input where the work's being done, then we're going to deliver the work. And then ideally, this is the piece that most automations miss. We're getting feedback so the system actually gets better every single time. Now that's all a system is. And let's see how we implement that into our actual agents. In here, we have basic automations. Now an automation is fixed. Think someone does an onboarding form on your website, and then that goes automatically populates into our CRM and automatically populates into your project management tool. So that way your team can get started quicker. That is an automation. No AI was used. It works exactly the same every single time. It's very valuable, but it doesn't think, it doesn't improve, it doesn't really solve much except for speed and data entry. Now, if we go to the next level here, we add in some AI into that automation. So that's when we get into AI automation. And this is also a simple system. It doesn't have feedback. And so that's what the key thing we want to get into is feedback so our systems get better over time. Now in AI automation, to use the same example before, they do the onboarding form, it populates information everywhere, but then it produces summaries. So it reads their onboarding form, it summarizes information, it fills in some gaps, and it gives my team an executive summary. Maybe it gives them a quick strategy, something super high level, but it's using AI to improve that data. Maybe it drafts an article, it comes up with a couple color schemes. It does something in there that it's doing a little bit of improvement with the data through AI. Now, AI agents here, the biggest thing is it's a little bit more variable. It's still not a full system because it doesn't have feedback, but it gets to make decisions. It gets to use different tools. It gets to kind of think and branch and use tools when it wants. So it has kind of a brain. So when we're using this AI, it may be connected to multiple tools and it can say, hey, I need to go check, LinkedIn to see if I can learn more about the lead. And then I need to go Google something. And then I need to compile all of that. And then I need to write a summary. And then I need to connect to update the proposal or update the strategy plan. The difference between AI agents and AI automations is that an AI automation is usually a fixed workflow. It's going to go exactly the same every single time. You can actually have an AI automation work exactly the same way as an AI agent if you pre-plan out all of the variables. The difference is really that an AI agent doesn't need as much pre-thought where it's going to make its own independent decisions on what tools, what branches, how to solve problems in a certain extent. When we jump into augmented or learning agents, this is really what I want to get everyone to work towards. And the only real difference is that they get to improve every single time. So they take data, they learn from the data, they take results, and they actually improve their scripts, they improve their process. Now, an example of this could be as simple as we use an AI proposal system in my company. Every time we get an approval, we store that data and we flag it as approved. approved. And so the AI agent is then going through the process, but it's learning from the ones that are being accepted. And it's getting a profile for that lead. It's getting a profile for the proposal. It's looking at the copy that was used. It was looking at the time frames. And it takes all of this data and learns how to make its system actually better. Now, this is the goal as we jump into systems, and we'll really start walking through how that looks. But the key here, and what I really want to get you to, is understanding that most of the systems that I call really strong examples for AI agents are augmented. They learn and they improve. There are a few AI systems that you should implement today. These are the easy ones. They're pretty simple. If you don't have 24-hour support, you should add on a live chat on your website. Super simple. It can answer questions, maybe customer service. The tool I use for that is Go High Level. I do have a discount down below, which you can grab. Most of the tools I mentioned, I have discounts too. The next one is an AI voice receptionist. If you already have a team that's picking up the phones and doing a good job, don't implement this one because you probably are doing a good job at that and you're making sales and people want to talk to a human. However, if you're missing calls, if it takes more than 10 minutes to get back to a lead, if you just don't get back to leads, you can put in an AI voice receptionist. I actually did this for a business recently and they doubled their bookings because those automatically answered and the AI voice receptionist could help schedule leads versus getting a call back 3 days later and then they've picked a new provider. Now, another one is AI email management just on your personal inbox, and you can implement this for your entire team. You can build this with AI tools pretty simply, but I use Fixer AI. I actually use every single day, and what it organizes my inbox, it drafts replies for me, it has my knowledge base, it has a schedule built in, it listens to my Zoom calls, and it does a lot of power behind it to make my day easier so my inbox management takes less time. Now, AI meeting scheduler, again, if you don't have a robust BDR team, you can use Go High Level or other tools to help get appointments booked on autopilot, which kind of is combined with these top two Go High Level tools. And there are a whole bunch of other softwares that do it. I just happen to use Go High Level. And then finally, for your team, an AI knowledge base. So as you build out documentation and SOPs, you can integrate that. I actually use for my company a GPT trainer. You can do it in Go High Level. You can also create it yourself within a few minutes. There's a lot of flexibility here. And when I get into the more complicated examples, I'll explain how you can custom build all of these, but it's not always worth the extra time to custom build a tool that you could implement for $100 a month. And all of these are on one subscription. It's an easy no-brainer. When we get into these more agentic tools that are actually replacing employees and making a huge difference in your business, or they're augmenting and they're improving employee workflows and allowing your team to free up time so they can work on more high value tasks, this is where the real value comes in. And I want to pull back up this example. So everything here that I'm going to show you is really a full system. So we want the input again, which is whatever is sending that initial message. So if you're in service-based business, it could be work is being ordered. It could be a trigger that someone did an onboarding form. It could be a new purchase. But as soon as it does it, something needs to be done, which is the work. Then you need to actually give that work somewhere. So it actually has to be sent. It has to be emailed. It has to be delivered. And then again, the key here with these agents, they get feedback. So for my team, we built an outbound email engine and we connected a few tools. And the biggest thing here is it's becoming easier and easier to automate your business, and things like Zapier, N8N, and Make are becoming less important or way easier to use because you can connect your tools to something like Claude and then just ask it to do it for you. One of the main tools I'm using to implement this is either Claude or Manus, and I'll show you an example of it actually running so you can actually see what I'm talking about. The real thing is understanding what is happening underneath the hood so that way you can implement it or you can ask someone to implement it for you. The cost is going down dramatically. The biggest thing is the strategy behind the systems. So an outbound engine, Apollo is one of the easiest ways to get data. It's pretty affordable and you'll be able to basically look for your ICP, so your ideal customer, and have the AI pull that data in. They already have a really good data set, but you can enrich it with a tool like Clay, or you can basically make it yourself. So you can use SERPDev, which is just an API. To understand APIs, it basically is a phone call from one software to another, and it will basically call Google and say, hey, Google, can you tell me about X, Y, and Z? And then you put it into your system. Now, a lot of this runs in the background through Claude or a tool like Zapier. This might seem complicated, but it's really not. Manus is really powerful and it makes everything a little bit easier. It's more of agent first versus code first, where Claude is a little bit more code first. It does tend to be a little bit more expensive. So if you want to learn more tools and you want to be an advanced user, Claude, I'd go probably straight there at the moment. If you're just like, I want to get something working, I need to solve a problem, I would use Manus at the moment. One of the things here is, as I'm talking about these tools, all you have to do is come in here and connect your tools. Typically, all you have to do is actually log into your tools and connect them. So you'll see I have a few tools connected here. A lot of the main ones that I'm using: project management, Claude, Asana, GitHub for code, Supabase for backend. And then if I need a new one, I can connect it. Now, we talked about Make and Zapier. You can connect it basically by just clicking in here and logging in. Click connect, walk through whatever the steps are, and it will connect to there and build it for you. This is a huge advantage, and this is why I'm not actually going into building it, and I'm trying to explain the systems over just execution, because I think execution is going to continue to get easier and easier. Now, if there's a custom tool that you can't get access to, that's when the APIs come into play. And with Manus, it's really cool because you just say, hey Manus, I would like to connect this tool. What information do you need from me to get it connected? And it'll do it for you. And they have enterprise level encryption, so you can actually put your API keys into a secrets area. You can come in here and then I can go into settings and then secrets. There is where I keep all of my API keys, and it protects it, and it's inside of Manus's whole network, so you don't have to really worry about it. So again, this is why I think it's the easy button. It's just the quickest way to get started at the moment. However, I do believe Claude is coming for every tool, and probably by the time you watch this, it will also do this or do something similar. Now let's get back into this. So understanding, for the email outbound system, we need our data, which for this example is Apollo, but there's other tools. And then we need to ideally enrich the data, have it look at LinkedIn, have it looked at Google, do something like that. So we'll use Clay, which is a paid, or CertDev, which is also paid, but much cheaper. And then you can use Claude or Manus to help build this process. And again, if you basically screenshot this into any of the tools and say, hey, I want to build out this, my goal is to reach out to clients, I want them to sign up for my service, it will help you build those automations for you. Now, the main tool that I use for sending is Instantly, and I use Gmail. Instantly, you can buy the Gmails through them, or there's a more advanced way to do that. I have a video on my YouTube channel about how to connect Gmail to GoDaddy, and it's a little bit more advanced. So if you're just trying to get quick, maybe buy a few, and then as you scale, you can go the more advanced route. What makes this agentic and what makes this smart is the feedback. The feedback is so important, and this is the thing that almost every automation or agent I have seen is missing. And to do this, takes one other step. We're going to use some sort of database. So the one that I like, they have a very generous free plan, is Supabase. Now, Supabase basically just takes all of the records. So if I connect my email and Apollo, and then ideally your CRM, so I should probably put plus CRM, but you add in basically some kind of trigger. If you're using Calendly or if you're using Go High Level for booking, you know when that lead actually books. And then you give feedback to the database. And so the AI is going to learn and say, hey, this was the copy we used. This was the follow-up that was sent. This lead booked. And then even better, you continue to track to a sale. So not only this lead booked, but this lead closed. So it then learns this person likes this kind of content. This person is responding. And then this is the copy that worked. This is the follow-up that worked. So you see how this becomes agentic. And that is really the difference between a workflow where it just kind of continues to work and you have to babysit it versus a system that is continuing. Now, I do have a free template down below, or a checklist that helps you build out AI agents. Basically, it's an SOP. You answer a whole bunch of questions, what tools you need, what the access is, then you can throw it into Manus or any other tool, and that will really speed up getting started. As part of Founder Systems AI, this is the check sheet. It's super simple. It just helps get you started, and it is free down below. I also have one on determining the constraints in your business. If you're feeling like you don't know where to start or overwhelmed with all the options, these will just help you kind of answer a few questions. You go through a decision flow, and it'll help you move through this process quicker and get better results. So let's keep going now to the next AI agents example. Here we have an AI proposal generator, which I already mentioned. Now, the key thing here is my team was spending over an hour per proposal, and they weren't getting much better. They would just go through the same process every single time. They weren't learning. And the biggest thing was it was taking time, but also we were losing sales because speed to lead is so important. So when we look at the decision criteria here, this was very focused on revenue, and so was the other email process. So what we're doing is we use Zoom for our calls, and then we use a tool to record our calls. Our team uses MeetGeek. That's not necessarily a recommendation. There's Fathom. There's a whole bunch of other tools. You can figure out what works for you, what pricing works for your company. But basically, we record the calls. It automatically gets captured. Then AI is going to listen to the call. It's going to Google the company. It's going to Google the lead. It's going to look at their LinkedIn. It's going to learn about them. But then the feedback piece, it's going to look at proposals from similar leads that have already closed, become educated, look at our examples, look at our case studies. It's going to pile all of that into a proposal. That integrates directly to our proposal system. We use Go Prospero. The tools here really don't matter as much as understanding where you need to connect things. I wish that Go High Level had a little bit more of a richer implementation process, but right now it doesn't support HTML or code. So it makes it a little bit harder to use that in this case, which is why we're using a different tool. But then it'll draft it. And then on top of that, it will then email the salesperson pretty much within 5 minutes of them getting off the call. And it'll email them, hey, this is the recommended reply. So basically their follow-up email. And then here is the current proposal. Please review and approve it. So what they do is they actually go in, and my team is very diligent about checking these because it's not 100%, and they can go in and add information. But the key is the proposal already knew all of our case studies. It already knew our capabilities. It already knew what was said on the call, and it also knows what has worked historically over the last 60 days. And then specifically, not just what's been working, but what's been working for people like that. So it becomes very, very powerful. Then once they hit send, it gets stored in the database. Now our database, again, is connected to our CRM. And so this tool is getting smarter and smarter as that sale potentially maybe drops off and doesn't close, or closes. It then marks that off as saying, hey, this proposal was a success. And then it stars it in the system. So the brain actually goes back into that database and learns from that proposal. Now, again, this is a huge revenue driver for my business because not only did we take something that took over an hour and brought it down to about 15 minutes, we've also increased our conversions on new leads. Now, this is probably one of the more popular ones that I get is how do I repurpose my content? How do I make AI SEO? How do I make AI everything? And the key here is typically if you're just using AI to create content, it's what you're going to hear AI slop. And it kind of is because anyone can go on ChatGPT or Claude or Manus and ask the exact same question and get almost the identical response. The key here is the data set that you're giving it. So the information about your company, your proprietary standard operating procedures, any information that they can learn about your process. That is the key to turn AI into an assistant that really is learning and educated and can improve based on what you're saying. So the way that I typically trigger this is we have one platform where we post very genuine, real human content. So for us, a lot of times it's YouTube. So we'll do YouTube videos like this. Then the AI will grab that YouTube video. It can repurpose it automatically into shorts if you want. That's not something that I do because I want everything to be my editors actually edit it. The AI Shorts is actually pretty good. Then the key here is you can do blogs, you can do LinkedIn posts, and every tool, the more you get into it, this is a more complicated build, but you can actually look at what's trending styles on LinkedIn, what's trending styles on Reddit, what's trending styles on Twitter. And you build all that into your database, which is Supabase, and it learns and it educates and it evolves as trends move. So you can connect all of these tools using Claude, using Manus. Another one here is N8N, but you can connect Claude to N8N, so you don't have to build this. You use the SOP worksheet for connecting AI agents. You answer again the questions, and this will help you. You give it to them, and then you say, hey, Claude, ask me any questions, and then are there any additional tools or is there any additional logic, or can you improve this? And have a conversation back and forth. And then what I do is I say, give me an entire plan for this before we implement it. And the key is read through it very clearly. Understand where it's checking, what it's doing, how it's adjusting. And then key things with like content repurposing is I always say, do not lose my voice. Make sure to use my key points. Use quotes from me, write in my style, write the way I spoke. And what it'll do is it becomes from AI to your assistant because it's learning your voice. And when you repurpose it on things like LinkedIn, you can say, use my exact verbiage and copy, but format it in a style that's going viral on LinkedIn. And it just knows that because you use a tool like Apify to scrape consistent data that's going viral in your your niche. And then you're giving it the back end to improve and see your analytics. So what was good, what was bad. Really, really powerful. This one is a little bit more complicated and can take some time, but worth it if you're heavy into organic and social. Now that was some of the easier automations. Let's get into the more fun, full-powered automations. And if you want to learn more about systemizing your business, check out the Founder Systems AI course and community down below. AI client onboarding, research, and strategy. This one is really, really powerful. We already used the example of onboarding and automation. So they do an onboarding form and then go into our CRM, maybe an automatic email goes out through Go High Level or a different tool. And that's very valuable. But what if we could research that lead? So we use SERPDev, which is that Google tool, or a different tool like Apollo to then go research them. And then we use Google API or a paid SEO tool to pull in keywords that are going viral or have high search intent. And then we build that entire strategy plan automatically. Very similar to what we did with the proposal, just a little bit more advanced. And then instead of having to compile all this information and your team taking a week to get started, they just get an email and a project in their project management tool, which we use Asana, and it's ready to go and they can start going to review it. And the advantage is, again, we're using a database, we're using Supabase. So as clients approve those proposals and as clients have better success and as pitches work, the system gets better and better because we're feeding all of that into this database. Some key tools that we use in here are Go High Level. For forms, we use N8N, Claude, SERPDev. It creates a client portal. We use Google Drive, Asana, Slack, and then you just determine what tools you're currently using. And you really, again, when we're building these out, when we're building this checklist out, you just really explain what you want that outcome to be. So we say, okay, Claude, so my input is going to be my client just paid and they're doing an onboarding form. I want to integrate my payment platform so you can see the payment. I want to integrate my onboarding form so you see the onboarding form. Then I want to give you access to our project management tool. I want to give you access to search the web. I want to give you access to pull SEO data. And then I want you to deliver all of that into our project management tool and email the team notifying that it's ready to go. And then I want you to store that data into a database. And as we get approvals and make edits, I want you to then learn and save and improve the templates so we can get better every single time. So that is really the prompt that I would use. And you can give more details, but that's really all you need to do. But the key thing, again, is you have to understand what ideas you're connecting. So you just need to know the current process. Now, as part of Founder Systems AI, the course and community, what we really harp on is standard operating procedures. So instead of just trying to go build an AI agent for a system that doesn't exist, go manually do that system. Walk through every single step, see what you're doing, even record the time you're doing it. So someone does the onboarding form. I take 20 minutes, I put into the CRM. I take 20 minutes, I put into the project management tool. Then I take 40 minutes and I do research on the company. Then I do 40 minutes of competitor research, then 30 minutes of keyword research. Then I implement all of that into a strategy, which takes me 4 hours to write. And then I put that into the project management tool. And then I email the lead saying, hey, we're ready for our onboarding call to go over the first steps to learn a little bit more to finalize your strategy plan. That could have been an entire day, which is going to be done in about 15 minutes automatically every single time. And it will probably be better after the 4th or 5th time, as long as you have the feedback loop working. As we go through these, you'll probably start to see a trend. We're using very similar tools every single time. And that's because there are not that many tools that you actually need to get your work done. And they were probably tools that you were already using. So you just have to figure out how to get AI access to them. And maybe there is one, like if you were Googling, there's a cheaper or easier way to integrate. So SERPDev is that Google. So there's an alternative, but you can learn that by just asking AI. For my team, another key constraint was we'd like to do multiple sales calls in a day, but we want to make sure that the sales lead goes to the right person, that the call is already researched. We know their values, their pain points, their products, and that we actually give them a score ahead of time so that way we understand how to route it, what the percentage likelihood that it's going to close. Maybe we cancel leads if they're under a certain score. So we can do all of this by integrating a few tools. Now for us, we use Go High Level for our calendar. So that is the input, that is the trigger in the system. You can use N8N for the backend, but again, we're going to prompt that through Claude. Or you can build a more advanced dashboard and things like that using Manus or Claude. It just gets a little bit step ahead. So this is one of the dashboards I'm building right now, and it's a social researching tool, which I think is probably the next one. So we'll go in that in more depth, but it will help me figure out exactly what videos to film. It's giving me ideas on what I'm going to film now. and it's doing research. I do have a paid beta down below if you're interested. This tool is still very much a work in progress, but it's very, very powerful. So the goal here is just to show you that you can build entire dashboards with all of this happening in the background. So you never have to see the complicated tools, but you get to really work through. And I built this into kind of like a CRM where I'm tracking my projects and seeing progress. My goal with this video is not to show you the AI tools, but to show you the way to think through these. So again, let's revisit this really quickly. We don't even need N8N. We have our scheduling tool, we have our data tool, we have our Googling tool, and then we have our AI brain. If you start thinking about it that way, the tools become less important and you can get the most relevant tools as you need them, or which ones ever you're already using. So that way you don't have to start over. Tools can be very overwhelming and system is more important. Now, when we get to the next step, this is number 6. This is the last one that I implemented into my business recently that is driving a lot of value, is AI social SEO research and planning. So that was the dashboard that I showed you really quickly. And the power of this dashboard is that it's doing several different types of research, specifically on YouTube, because that's where I'm producing most of my content. It's looking at videos that are already trending and doing well. It's looking at SEO. It's looking at multiple variables. And then I have an entire page that helps me strategize what I'm going to do. So it'll actually look at comments from other YouTube videos. It'll read the transcripts. It'll help me build an outline of where the gaps are that I can help fill and educate my team. And to do this, there are a few ways you can do it. Appify is one of the easiest. Same, it'll scrape LinkedIn, it'll scrape YouTube, it'll scrape a whole bunch of things. Scraping is a very complicated thing, so it's a paid tool. Data for SEO is paid, but it's super cheap, and it will do Google keyword research. You can use Google API for free, but you just have to be approved. Then Claude, and then of course our database is Supabase. There are other ones, so it's not specifically a Supabase promotion, just you need the back end database. And then you can use something like N8N, or you can do what I showed you as a dashboard. I used Manus for that, which is really easy. If you're gonna fully program it, that's where you get into Claude and you would use own servers and things like that. But that's why Manus just it cuts a few tools down and it's a little bit of an easier button. Now, the key here and what I teach in Founder Systems AI course and community is the blueprint really never changes. You have an input, you have work being done, you're delivering the work. Like I said, everyone's missing the feedback. That's what makes everything agentic. It makes it better. And so every single year, you're increasing your AI agents, your systems, you're increasing your value of your company because it has more data to work on. AI continues to become more powerful. I think one of the key separators in business is going to be the data set. There is no reason for me to go buy a lot of tools anymore because I can build them in a few days. However, a lot of tools have a moat of data, or they have a moat of strategy that you don't know. So they're integrating these processes. So if you've never used a project management software, it probably doesn't make sense to build your own because you don't know exactly what you need. And when you have tools like Asana, who are really robust and they're experts in project management, they're developing a system, an SOP for you. And so the value is in that. It's already a robust understanding of adding ownerships, adding due dates, adding subtasks. So there's a lot of value in using these tools that already exist. Now, if you want our free SOPs, you can grab them down below, specifically the one about AI agents. And if you want to learn more about systems, make sure to check out the Founder Systems AI course and community down below. And of course, subscribe because I'm producing content like this every single day.